The time has come for my people to go.
I'm not a queen, I'm a servant of the people. I'm not a king, I'm a servant of the people. It's what the people demand. We gonna keep fighting till we get that land. I'm not a queen, I'm a servant of the people. I'm not a king, I'm a servant of the people. It's time to rise to get what we want. We got to organize.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Pantsula Podcast, brought to you by the All African People's Revolutionary Party. For those who are not familiar with the A-APRP, our objective is Pan-Africanism. We define Pan-Africanism as a total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. Today, we'll be talking about, on our 8th episode, self-criticism and positive criticism process. So we're going to kind of dive into that. And this week, we're going to dedicate this episode to the ancestors Ida Wells and also W.E.B DuBois. His birthday just passed, so have to definitely rep him too as well. So yeah, just kick it off. We're going to start off with talking about the self-criticism and positive criticism process, and some of our thoughts on it and reflections too as well. So yeah, just to kick it off, essentially, I have my comrades here, Jesse, and I also have Evan joining me today. Just to kick it off, just wanted to start off and see, essentially, why do you think it's important that all of us engage in this positive criticism, self-criticism process? Why do we think it's necessary that we all do that?
Well, it's definitely not something we're used to doing in our society. I think a lot of people kind of shun at the word criticism. Like if someone says they have a criticism, it's not necessarily the first thing people want to hear. But when you look at the necessity of it, it's just important to get criticism because it helps you make a better decision. So I think with having a criticism process, you're allowed to look at yourself and your process and just be dialectic about it and see what needs to be improved, because we all have areas that can be improved. And the criticism process just calls that attention and makes it clear that without that, you're going to be misled. And, then you have bourgeois exception. You just make everything reliable, and actually there needs to be a dialectical relationship, and that means being critical.
And this is Evan, and in New York City, occupied not the Hoking. And another thing about positive criticism, self-criticism, is that that's not just a matter of, I don't like you, or I don't like how you said this, and not so much in a way of like some tone that you have an opinion about that might sound weird or not, but something in which you feel like the person or the group is somehow like drifting apart from the line. Like if you, for example, one of the bits of our ideology is understanding collectivism, humanism, and egalitarianism. And if something that you're doing, a project or something that, or in the case of one of our allied organizations, they're doing something and they're not following through in ways that reinforce those bits of the ideology, then that's where you come in with the self-criticism of, oh wait, I didn't do something like in the interest of the group, or I used someone as an end, like as a means to an end rather than an end in themselves. And I think that's the important thing.
Definitely. Yeah. And just to add on to what you guys are saying, essentially, it's like, I think we look at criticism in a negative light, essentially. We don't really have a full understanding of the importance of it, especially self-criticism. And I think Jamilah, one of our cadres in the circle, she made it clear to me when first joining, that we shouldn't look at it as, oh, I'm getting down on myself. It's just being more principled, understanding and helping you improve. Because you can't get better if everything is all good. You can't be all kumbaya and say, oh yeah, you did great and you did a terrible job. Terrible job. We're not holding nobody accountable.
Yeah, acknowledged.
Exactly. It should be acknowledged. At the end of the day, we're all, aspire to be revolutionaries, and we all need to get better. We all need to be more principled. No one's perfect too as well. So if we're just letting a lot of things slide, then, that's how we get lose sight of our objectives and lose sight of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to overcome, essentially, which is this oppressive system, capitalism, imperialism, and every other ism you could think of that's out there. So I know we were talking earlier, maybe we could speak to some of the books that, we read that help us, engage in that process, or talks about that process essentially, and how we adopt that on our everyday lives as well.
I'm thinking of Sékou Touré's book that we just finished reading in our work study.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
on the move. And
Yeah.
it goes into just the necessity of, there's a chapter actually directed to, I can't remember the name.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Evan, I know Evan mentioned it not long ago.
Yes, it's chapter 13. It's called Criticism and Self-Criticism. It's on page 167. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he really went into just a wealth of why that is necessary. And I think, again, me just being in this organization not long, just about 8 months already, and just understanding, as you mentioned, Evan, it's also just a reflection of the group. It's not like your own interest. It's like if everyone is able to be critical of themselves, it's going to benefit the collective, because it's just going to advance that progress. But it's still something, again, we're not used to hearing or just confronting, because it can be confrontational, and that's good. I mean, I think confrontation is what we need to get used to, because that's what the capitalist system doesn't have any problem confronting us with their nonsense. So we got to be principled and understand that everything has that relationship, and not be afraid of it, or resort to just this that kind of turns into people being not really real with you. Instead of showing you who their real intentions are, they give you that assertive, the passive aggression, and and no one likes to deal with that. And I think one way to curb that is obviously having a process where you're able to be critical and analytical, so that you can weigh in every emotion and substance in the conversation.
Yeah. And then just me reading the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, I think I just posted it online in regards to like discipline, and that's a big thing. And I think a big thing about discipline is accountability. You can't be disciplined without accountability at the end of the day. So I think engaging in that process is something that we need to do, not only in organizations, but our everyday lives, essentially. So yeah. Evan, you got anything to add to that part?
Yes, and the thing is that like you hear accountability if you're at work or at school, you hear about accountability. I think you just think, oh, okay, I'm accountable. Yeah, you just tell me that, and then it's over with it, or you hear, or if you heard like recently the sort of quote unquote cancel culture, which I have lots of criticism about both the term and stuff, and even like some ways in which this sort of that is manifested in a way in which it's either used to sort of talk about like people who are in like bourgeois or pretty bourgeois positions and celebrities to say, oh, they did something this and they gotta be accountable. But like, what's accountable? Like, are you in some the organization as I don't know, Gina Carano? Do you know her, or do you work for Disney or something like that? Or what exactly? Like if you're just saying like I don't like this person because they said something that was offensive to me, but that's it, and that's not, is that really accountability? No, you're just saying you don't like that person, or you're just not a fan. Like it's a different thing in an organization, a revolutionary organization, where if you're doing something and again, like using another example. One of the things in the party is democratic centralism, which is basically...
Exactly. That was the word I was about to get to, because Namu mentions, he goes through a bunch of definitions, but I like that he actually breaks down just these important terms that we use. And democratic centralism, the process of democratic collective decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And so when you hear a group that practices it, it basically means that there's a discussion. There's an active discussion there. You present premises about why this shouldn't work, why this works, why this doesn't work, and this follows the line, this doesn't follow the line, and stuff like that. But when it actually comes to going out and presenting yourself as part of a party, then you say we have the same line, and then then you do go from there. Whereas, and then it goes back to another point about self-criticism, that if someone doesn't follow the line, then you have to make sure that they know that you don't talk behind their back about, that you don't do so in a way that attacks them personally. You're just saying that, hey, what you're doing is ineffective and harmful to other people in the party or the party itself, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But how about maybe we could just talk about some real life examples, being in the organization or maybe even outside the organizing work that you do, in regards to how self-criticism has helped us grow from, the last year or last few months that we've been doing this work, like I even stated, like outside of this too as well. So maybe we could kind of just like go into that, because I know for me personally, when I first came in, I thought, I didn't think I knew it all, but I felt like, oh, okay, I have a good perspective on a lot of things. And then I came in and it was like,
Right.
oh, snap.
You're checked all the time.
I thank God for comrades like you guys and Jamilah and everyone else that's in the org that's like, a part of that process. And, I think I take a lot of that stuff and reflect as well. And I think I've grown tremendously from that, engaging in that process, criticizing myself, and also, it's positive criticism too, when I feel like I've done a good job and things got handled the way it should have been. So I think I've grown tremendously, further my analysis. And obviously you never stop growing throughout this process. So I think I took leaps and bounds from when I started up until now. And I think there's still a long way for me to go. The learning don't stop, the self-criticism don't stop. So I'm always going to make mistakes. So yeah. So if you guys have any examples of that, whether, like I said, whether it's in the org or outside of it.
Well, for me, it's just kind of helped me see how hostage I was to just like bourgeois propaganda as it relates to being called out about something. Like, I think a lot of us are just held hostage to that. And this process just kind of taught me, being in the org, that there are advances that can be made if you can point out something that can be corrected. So like, and again, much love and respect to our comrade Jamilah, who we still send a lot of love and peace to during her healing right now. But she's been one of the top people to just call out, like, yo, here's something I see. Let me tell you what and then it's always like, and then tell me what you think about it, because we need that interaction. And usually people are afraid of that. And usually when people hear that, we stray away from it. And I've always appreciated criticism because I want to see what can be corrected. I think, again, I've always seen the benefit in it. And this organization is just evident because there's not just agreement. Like, just being in a lot of these meetings, I've noticed just the friction when, just definitely ideological struggle. And that's not a bad thing. So I think I've just become accepting of the fact that ideological struggle is not only necessary, but to expect it and to learn how to engage with it, as opposed to, fearing away from it because you don't want to be called out or because you just don't want to be, accountable.
And I think we're kind of experiencing that right now with our comrade Jamilah, that there were points where like she took on something, and as a result of her not being able to take care of things right now, is this sort of thing. We're like, oh, we'll just wait, or like we'll figure out something. And I realized, and then when that didn't happen, then even she herself was like, yo, you gotta step up. You gotta realize that, hey, what if we're obviously hoping not the worst, but what if the worst did happen? Then what are you gonna do? You're gonna wait for someone? No. So we have to realize, oh wait, where can we improve ourselves? How can I improve my communication with Jesse and Jeffrey? How can I improve my communication with Jamilah? How can I improve with Anisan, John, and so on and so forth? That because right now I have to take care of some of the things that she was doing for example, I'm doing orientation for potential recruits, and if anyone who knows me that I might be hiding it here, but you can tell that I'm not. I have some nerves, so I had to like say, okay, what do I have to do? Like I asked someone who was sending me the people who were coming in for the organization, and then I asked someone else, asked Jamilah about, what should I do? And then I did my best because I got like 5 other things I have to do, but managed to do all right. And I have another one coming up next week. So you can't. So when there are things where you're new to it, that you just have to go and do it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's how. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And if you make a mistake and you realize, that's something to do for next time, and I just ask for more help, or I change something else, and that's not something evil about me or immoral. You just did something you could have done better, and you just go from there.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's how you get better, right? Like, someone gives you some feedback, some criticism, or you internally reflect and have that self-criticism yourself. But that's how you get better, by doing it and then criticizing, what you did on how to improve better on it. Because, trying to be liberal about it in a way and be like,
right.
Oh yeah, everyone gets a trophy. And it's like, no, you got that wrong.
Right.
You need to improve on it. And it's not trying to attack. It's not an assault on anybody's intelligence or anything like that. No one is taking a personal attack on you. It's just being principled about it. So I kind of want to go back into some of the things we were talking about in regards to what I just mentioned. And, what do we think a lot of that like liberal idea of criticism comes from? Like, do we think it's like self-taught? Do we think it's from the educational system? What do you think that whole negative connotation comes from in regards to criticism and it being kind of like demonized in a way?
I think it's used as a justification of capitalism, because if you give everyone, just an idea to believe anything without understanding the dialectical relationship between those things, you just allow anything. So like, that's what it really does. It just adds like a protective shield. Like you can just give people like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right. Just like it's right to exploit the Africans for their minerals without really going into why that is. Like it just sort of like covers the process. I think that's why it's rampant, because it gives people a shield. And that's the problem now. Too many people are talking without reading. Too many people are not, actually engaged in a process where they're able to look at things dialectically, because the system has just told everybody that they have a voice. And it's not that they don't have a voice. We obviously have a voice, but it's best to know how to understand that process, because there's just that relationship that has to be understood. And if you don't understand that, you're going to just say whatever and give everything credit, and then you're going to miss out on the way it's actually working here.
Exactly.
I think another point is that, especially over the last few decades, the advent of the neoliberal turn of capitalism that is so focused on making sure that the idea of it's your personal responsibility to make money, or it's up to, or you're just saying that the government can't do it, so therefore we have to rely on this entrepreneurship, and that anything that you fail to do is your fault. And it's like, well, what about the fact that our people have been like exploited and barred from land, from work, etc. No, it's your fault. No, you just didn't do it. You just
yeah.
And you even get these, and you get all this like media just like so hyper focused on individuals, and so it's sort of dialectic of the individual praise and then group shame.
Right. Yeah.
That's funny how that works. Yeah. It's So for me, it's just like everyone was stating, it's like, the media just pushes that out in front of us. And I also feel like the school systems essentially, like, once again, everyone gets a trophy, and, everyone did a great job, and, that doesn't help anyone to get better. No one improves. And then that's how people start getting into things and feeling like, oh, what I think is superior and, is right because everyone else has coddled me throughout my life and told me I was right. So how could I be wrong? So I think that's how I believe it, could get misled, and it could lead you down the wrong path, essentially. And then that's how we have the current state of a lot of our people, on top of the fact that, like you stated, that people don't do the studying, but also people don't join organizations and do the studying, as well. So I think a mix of both of that it's kind of dangerous and deadly, and we see it every day, especially on social media. But I know
and the people are confused about the quantity as opposed to the quality. So if more people are congregating on an idea that's like, oh, this must be true because everyone believes it, and it's like, no, that's not the way it works. Because just because a bunch of people are congregating and accepting it doesn't mean that they have the right idea about how it actually works. If there's no process of scientifically analyzing it, you just can't take it and say, oh, this is the truth. But that's what ends up happening. Because again, capitalism has a way of showing people that myth. Like you can actually get through with the individual. It's never about the collective. The principles that we know to be true that we are studying show us that it's actually the collective. It's the masses of the people. It can't be just one or two people that make it. And it goes back to that criticism point. Like we just can't hoard to this idea that no one can be criticized. We all right. We all got our own thing. It's definitely deeper than that. And that process just got to be understood. Like, you got to get that process.
Yeah, you have to.
And even when, as I said, even when there is criticism, it's done in a way that where there's like little or any kind of link.
It's all of that.
If someone like I say, it's like someone they find out they have like racist or homophobic or whatever sexist jokes on social media, or they do something or they say something that's altered. How often do you hear like, oh, my bad, or they share like something that's I know, like I've done it a few times, like you share something, a retweet, and it ends up like, oh, that's not true, and you say like, oh,
right, then
right, exactly, yeah, exactly.
Right. They don't add actually what they find problematic. They just point to what they disagree with and then move on. It's like, tell me what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think we just have to all stay in that role of we're all learning, we're all students at the end of the day.
Right.
You know, it's like no one is a master at anything. We're all continuously learning. I know I mentioned it on one of our previous episodes that you know, W.E.B DuBois, you know, one of the ancestors we're honoring this week, you know, he evolved, you know, throughout his life several times, you know, up to the time he was in his 90s, and you know, so many different ancestors and current revolutionaries and past revolutionaries have always continuously engaged in that criticism process of themselves. Malcolm X being one of them. You know, you see the evolution of them, and they've gotten better. Even you know, Kwame Touré. You know, even him himself, you can see him from, you know, his days early in Snake up until, you know, he passed away in the 90s and stuff. So, you know, you just see his analysis get further and further. And I think he would even say, I remember watching the interview, you know, he was talking and someone was like, oh, you're still the same Kwame Touré. He's like, no, you know, my analysis is further. Essentially,
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm a lot smaller. I do, you know, I engage in the process. And I think all that is a part of the self-criticism, positive criticism process as well. So yeah, I mean, do you guys have anything else you guys would like to cover in regards to this topic?
I think the other thing I'd like to cover is like one of the things that we're doing with the anti-patriarchy task force is one of the things we're trying to implement is this sort of transformative justice. I think that there are other people who could speak better on that, but you know, that's another point where if there is like one of the things that we talk about is wondering about the makeup of people within like certain parts of the organization of whether they're in parts central committee or within work study discussions of cadre and the role of the A-APRP, the All African Women's Revolutionary Union, and just making sure that this focus on the triple oppression of African women, of working class peasant African women taken care of, and a big part of it is knowing that if there's something to say, then like if you're disagreeing with something that your sister or non-binary comrade is saying, then you have to provide proof, and just making sure that there is a two-way, that you always have to listen, and
Right.
that's a big thing.
I think that's a good point. Actually, I think I actually want to get into that. Like, you know, I think, you know, getting engaging in criticism, like self or positive criticism, whatever, is very important. But I think you could also get too far with it where, you're just doing it wildly. You're not doing it in a principled manner because we see people do that in a in an unprincipled way. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit on what's the more principled way, maybe more so in the organization or outside of the organization to go about engaging in that process.
I think going further on that is one of a great piece is we'll share the link when we post this about called Misogynist Make Great Informants. Talking about even if the person who's doing something that's untoward, either abusing some power relationship or worse, or just doing something that's that gets in the way of both this of study as well as the work involved, and even if they're not if they're not on the take from the feds or anything, that they're doing something that is indeed counter-revolution, counterproductive. So it's always important to make sure that is taken care of as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And I think just going directly to your comrade or cadre, essentially was a
if we go directly to people as opposed to just publicly attacking somebody just for clout, which is what a lot of people end up doing just to get the likes or retweets. But if you got an issue, send someone a direct message and really do it principally. Have a phone conversation. You can't really get through a tweet. I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just taking that extra mile and making it available to be unpacked.
Yeah, and I think there's damage that can be done if you don't do it in a principled manner, right? Like if someone wants to go on social media and start blasting members within the party and saying all type of stuff, is how is that going to look, regards to your organization, how you guys engage? I know me, if I was looking for organizations and I seen that going on, on people online going back and forth and, not addressing the matter privately within each other, within the confines of the organization, will kind of put me off. Okay, this is kind of unprincipled, right? So I think it's always important that we do these things in a principled manner.
And there's also a point where if people are within an organization or they leave an organization and they're saying they say just a cover up of some kind of sexual assault or rape or something like that, or racism or ableism or something like that, and it's not taken care of, then it makes it more and more likely that someone will come out and say, "Oh, look, this organization, they suck. They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about me." At some point, people do come out to to warn people that, hey, they're not doing the right self-criticism. They're not doing the right transforming process, and they think this is the only way they can do it to transform. And obviously, I don't want to name names for the sake of principalities, but it offers these opportunities to either get out in front and say, okay, we failed to do this, or look at, because what might happen is that you'll see some kind of discussion, and then they'll say, this person's making it up, and then even in the chance that they are making up, it still plays bad on the organization itself, and then yeah,
exactly. I think people don't think about that when they do things in an unprincipled manner, that things are a reflection on you and your org. It's kind of like, I know Jamilah kind of said that, I know you alluded to it too earlier, Evan, is people are more principled with their jobs because, people, the company will tell you, oh yeah, you're a representation of your company, right? But when it comes to organizational work, sometimes people aren't principled with their organization. They don't look at it the same way they look at their job, because their job is giving them X amount of dollars an hour or salary or whatever, which is essentially crumbs that, the corporation's giving you. But still, people don't look at it in that manner. So I think we have to look at it like that. Everywhere you go, you're repping your org, right? You're trying to get people to join, and if you're doing things unprincipledly, that's a reflection of your organization at the end of the day. So I think that's why that's also important.
And sort of a correction of a self-criticism I had for the last time I did a podcast is actually try to, even though I love like talking and like getting from my memory and discussing things and ripping off, I actually want to get into like actual text as well. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
Try to get that. So this is from Africa on the Move, talking about like criticism, self-criticism. Let's see where I can find that. And he's talking about another, like if you're relatively familiar with terms criticism, self-criticism, you might want to think of now as China, and so here he's actually talking about it. Here I should like to refer to some achievements of the People's Republic of China. In 1957, China launched the so-called Movements to Correct Methods of Work, and all activities of the nation were submitted to constructive criticism. From the base to the summit, and from the summit to the base, everyone was invited to criticize. Note the point, everyone. So wherever you are in the organization, if you should be able to be criticized regardless of where you are in the organization, and do so in a way that's principled. So I'll continue. Not only did this collective scrutiny aim to find the best ways to improve working methods, appreciably improve relations between the various social layers, it also heightened the people's awareness of their potentialities and their sense of responsibility. In the city of Shanghai alone, 200,000 workers were relieved from heavy manual labor through the introduction of labor-saving devices. Everywhere, the workers contributed to many technical improvements. One industrial combine, they made 110,000 technical innovations. Elsewhere, they devised a rice drill, which increased the yield tenfold. Such achievements bolstered people's enthusiasm and sharpened their revolutionary consciousness. So therefore, so they did this criticism, and according to the secretary, they did the criticism and actually improved. So, and that's the one thing is that sometimes you think you get criticized, and therefore, I'm done, I'm garbage, I'm just gonna close all my accounts, and I'm done. So.
Exactly.
But in an organization, it's critical. This determination made it possible for China to transform itself in a few years from an economy founded basically on agriculture and crafts to a highly developed industrial economy.
Yeah, man.
It just puts it in perspective right there. I mean, like everyone's involved. Like, it's not just the people, it's not just the peasantry, it's just not the general board. It's like everyone is in that critical process. That's how you really achieve that work.
Yeah, and I know one thing Jamilah always says: this isn't capitalism. It's like it's hierarchy, and it's because you on the committee, central committee or something, or you're in this program committee, whatever the case is, that I can't get criticized for what I do. Everyone is subject. We're all humans. It doesn't matter what position it is. And I would even say, like, the higher position you have, the more criticism you probably need.
Right. Exactly.
Too. So yeah.
Much is given, much is required, someone said.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a bar right there.
That sort of speaks about the irony about under socialism, that you can't say you're following this one person, but
right. Yeah.
Even if there are kind of contradictions and errors that certain organizations and governments have made, it's still the whole point is that everyone has to say, regardless. It's like if you go to a company, or let's say you work, say to first off solidarity to the Africans in the South of the United States trying to unionize. Let's say if one person tried to say Jeff Bezos, I could kick his butt or something, then you think he's going to be on the job much longer? Or he or says it, so he or she says it publicly? No.
Yeah.
Not very much a democracy.
Exactly.
They weed that out quickly.
Yeah. Like if you're looking for something democratic, you have to engage in that process. Like, and once again, this is a capitalism where you say something and someone's, you're gonna get kicked out the party because you said something bad about a Jamu or, Jesse or Evan, whatever. It doesn't work that way. And I also want to probably get into like possibly even not really criticizing, but really critiquing and getting into refining ideologies. I feel like people think that, okay, because you have an ideology, like we're in the Plumas Terreyes, right? That there's no way you can improve on it. It's kind of set, whatever they said, you have to. And I think you have to understand that we have this ideology, one, for objectives, but also two, that the material conditions of our people change. Everything isn't stuck in one time. Culture changes. We have to improve on that. So I guess kind of engaging and probably talking about, how do we, add to the ideologies that we have and objectives that we have, and I guess critique it in itself to apply it to today's conditions.
Wow,
I know I said a lot there, but
right, that's yeah. I mean, in one essence, it's just like realizing that everything is changing. Everything is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that means knowing what the material conditions are now and seeing how we can incorporate those values into the changing society, so that we're not just holding on to a line, understanding that the line is dope and we need the line. The line is what we operating on. We understand the line, but knowing that as times move on, we're going to have to update our settings, like our computers. Everything has to update. You gotta put your oil in the car. These things have to change. And I know our sister Majiba, once we were having there was a meeting about this, and she made a great analogy to it being like, I believe it was a bicycle. But so much to where it was just like, you got to change your tires. You don't want to, if we can go further, we can use better tools than the tools that are outdated. And that's what the critical process will allow.
Like the handlebars and everything else is the foundation. But, every time, you need, every once in a while, you need to change the tires or do certain things to keep the bike running. And I think that's how I look at the ideology. You have a foundation, you have objectives that you want to reach that's going to help you get there. But there's also things that you need to account for for everyday conditions of our people. So.
And that's another thing. Like I was talking about the anti-patriarchy task forces. Like even though there is, like we already do have a revolutionary women's union, and there are like sisters that we're struggling with, and that we still have to make sure that is getting applied. We can have, like as Jesse said, you can have this dope ideology you can bring to people. You say, oh yeah, like that, like. But then you still have to say, like, are you doing it? Are you actually doing it? Are you putting the work in? Are you doing? And we're hoping we're doing the best we can. But again, we're always within the priority. We always like make sure that we are constantly doing this self-criticism and criticism and positive criticism. So any other party members see this and you got something to critique, you're always welcome to contact us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say.
We're ready for it. Like wherever the darts, just throw it our way. We'll take it.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll help us get better. Whether you're in the party or not, we'll take it. We'll take it in stride.
But did you?
At the end of the day. Yeah, exactly. Join the organization.
Yeah. Now I will say, it is more valuable to receive criticism from those who are a part of organizations.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's not that you can't get criticism from anyone, because anyone can help you, but it's like, in terms of like someone trying to ideologically disagree, but they're not a part of the process, kind of like...
Yeah. Yeah, like, what's your ideology?
Yeah, just that route. But we can all learn from one another, of course, but...
Yeah, but I think I know what you're kind of getting to is like, people get into like reactionary type of like situations and just blur out anything and say, oh, you guys are wrong. And it's like, they don't even engage in a political education process themselves or within an organization. They're just talking. Yeah, they're just talking to talk, right? They're not principled, right? Just saying whatever. So yeah, I mean, we invite that too, but it's not really going to get our attention. It's not going to help us in any way. So you can say it, but you're just wasting his time. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's like we were stressing, join an organization fighting for justice. I know for me, it helped me out a lot. So in this whole process as well. All right, so I guess that concludes this episode of the Pantsula Podcast. We appreciate you guys joining us today, and look to catch you on for our next episode, episode 9. All right, forward ever, guys.
Forward.
And check the link out at the end. Forward.